You know what's funny?
What's funny?
Orphans.
Why are orphans funny? It's a horrible thing to say to
Orphans are funny
Yeah.
inherently
Okay.
because they don't have parents. And I'll tell you why that's funny.
Okay.
Because no one loves them.
Oh, wow.
They have no one in the world that cares about them. They're part of a system that systematically strips away their humanity and makes them a cog in the machine that needs to be dealt with. And that's just hilarious.
So I guess that's how we're going to start this show.
Also, Annie. Annie's good. I should have started with Annie.
La 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 la.
Here we go.
It's the Bible reloaded, the logic explosion, like Jesus and Moses, but it's Hugo and Jake. The Bible is jaded, and most of it taken, so get educated with Hugo and Jake. Pull up a new and stop what you're doing, it's Bible reloaded time. They call it debated, the theorists will hate it, I'm talking to taken, but it's Hugo and Jake. So I'm with the show then, it's not candy coated, it's the Bible reloaded with Hugo and Jake, with Hugo and Jake.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is the Bible Reloaded. Forgot the name for a second.
This is definitely that
Yeah.
right there.
This is the Atheist Bible Study, and today we're going to be looking at some David stuff. We're almost done with 2 Samuel. We're not going to
Finally.
finish. We're not going to finish today, but next episode will be the end of that.
Finally. I'm tired of looking at it.
I know. I'm tired of David's whole shtick. Luckily,
He dies soon.
he dies so soon, and I'm so
Oh.
happy. So last time, what happened was
I feel like he was my sugar daddy, and I'm just waiting to cash out.
that's the way to do it.
Like Anna Nicole.
Get him real old.
R.I.P. Anna.
Like get them like where you're almost concerned about a risk reward ratio. Are they gonna make it to the altar? Like,
Yeah.
Like, am I putting in all this time and they might die before it? But whatever. Last episode, what happened was David finally defeated his son who had usurped him as king. So now he's literally on his way back to the castle, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
back to his palace to try and regain control of the region.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a squabble between different people making claim to David, saying, like, David belongs to us, he's our king. So that carries into this episode. In 2 Samuel, chapter 20, Sheba rebels against David. Because David literally can have no downtime.
No,
He cannot not go without a rebellion or a war for like 5 minutes. He's not even done with the last war. He's on his way back to the palace and this is happening. But
It's like killing Goliath was like it's the equivalent of Walt's first batch of meth. From there it just never really can get a hold of it again.
yeah. Side note, this chapter and the next is full of so many contradictions. It's going to be impressive, so get ready for that.
Yeah.
Now, a troublemaker named Sheba, son of Beerki, a Benjamite, happened to be there. He sounded the trumpet and shouted, "We have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent, Israel."
That's impressive because he was sounding the trumpet at the same time.
I know, it's hard to talk when you play trumpet. I used to play trumpet.
He's like Louis Armstrong.
He's like the Eric Clapton of trumpets.
Can Eric Clapton sing and trumpet?
See the guy who did the guitar that talks?
No. That was
Peter
Was
Frampton.
that Peter Frampton?
Yeah. He's like the Peter Frampton of trumpets.
It's a good. How's that go? It goes, do you
Do you
feel like I do?
Something like that. I'm not as impressed by that as some people seem to be. Like, yeah, that's a thing you can buy. You put it in your mouth, and it's like it's not like it's a fucking
T-Pain did it later.
It's not a magic trick.
Well.
Anyway, so all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, son of Beerki.
Just like that?
David's a terrible leader. When drop of a pin, people will leave him. Like, yeah, shit keeps happening around him. Maybe we should back the fuck off.
Oh.
But the men of Judah stayed by their king all the way from the Jordan to Jerusalem. This is good. When David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines that he had left to take care of the palace and put them in a house under guard. He provided for them, but had no sexual relations with them.
It's weird. Once your son gets in there, it's like there's son dick on the inside of the dead son dick at that.
Yeah.
Dead son dick leftovers.
They were kept in confinement till the day of their death, living as widows.
Oh, that's good.
Is this supposed to be a good story?
Did they betray him?
No, they were raped. They were pretty much raped.
Yeah, so betrayal.
Yeah, but like,
No, they betrayed him.
okay,
They
sure.
should have clamped down them concubine snatches. Conk snatches in the biz, for short. It's our shorthand.
You ever just think like, man, where is our life gone?
We say conk snatches out loud.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and we get sort of compensated for that.
like we could have had real jobs,
No, we never had real jobs. We
Like,
had
but-
shitty jobs.
but we could have had real ones where we don't talk about concubine
That's
vagina.
not a job I want.
That's fair.
That's not a job that I even think that
I don't want
I
to
would
live
be
in a.
qualified for.
We're only qualified to talk about concubine vagina.
Conk snatch.
Conk snatch.
Say it right. Not to be confused with conchs, which are the animals that live in conch shells, which I've eaten before. They're delicious.
The king said to Amasa, "Summon the men of Judah to come with me within 3 days, and be there yourself." But when Amasa went to summon Judah, he took longer than the time the king had set for him.
Oh, he's fucked, isn't he?
Yeah. David said to Abishai, "Now Sheba, son of Bichir, will do us more harm than Absalom did. Take your master's men and pursue him, or he will find fortified cities and escape from us." Damn those fortified cities. I knew we fortified them to keep enemies out, but we didn't think, like, oh shit, this could keep us out too. So Joab's men and the Kerethites and Pelethites and all the mighty warriors went out under the command of Abishai. They marched out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheba to Bichir. When they were at the great rock in Gibeon, you know, that one,
Yeah, no, I got it.
Amasa came to meet them. Joab was wearing the military tunic, and strapped over it at his waist was a belt with a dagger in its sheath. As he stepped forward, it dropped out of its sheath.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, not gonna go.
No,
You softening it up today?
it's my version of Zoink Scoob. Zoink Scoob.
That wasn't bad.
That was okay. It was
That's
like
not the
a
best Shaggy
bee.
I've ever heard,
It's
but
like a
it's
bee.
yeah. You're no Casey Kasem. Joab said to Amasa, "How are you, my brother?" Then Joab took Amasa by the beard and his right hand to kiss him.
Whoa, he grabbed his beard?
He grabbed his beard
He grabbed it?
with his right hand to kiss him.
Is that a thing that you do now?
Yeah, it's a little
Well,
rapey.
I'm definitely growing my beard out then. I get kissed by Hebrews.
Amasa was not on his guard against the dagger in Joab's hand, and Joab plunged it into his belly, and his intestines spilled out on the ground.
That was a very effective dagger thing. But I thought it fell out of the sheath.
No, it's just, it fell out, but maybe it fell into his hand. I don't know.
So like an action movie when they throw the gun up in the air when they're like, "I surrender," and then it falls and they go ba 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 and shoot everyone in a circle.
Yep, just
Like
like that.
that?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Without being stabbed again, Amasa died. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, son of Bichri. Bichri, sure.
Now it's got a long E, huh?
Yeah, there you go. That's how it
Just
is.
However you want it.
Yeah, it's a choose your own word book.
I got it. I'm good.
One of Joab's men stood beside Amasa and said, "Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." Amasa lay wallowing in his blood in the middle of the road, as you do, and the man saw that all the troops came to halt there. When he realized that everyone who came up to Amasa stopped, he dragged him from the road into a field and threw a garment over him. That's what you do with writhing dead people. You're just like, I just really don't want to see it.
Well, his intestines were gross.
Yeah.
Like they were out. He probably stabbed into him a little bit. And so there's like not really completed poop on the ground.
Yeah.
Proto poop.
Bile.
No, just poop.
After Amasa had been removed from the road, everyone went on with Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri.
So he was more like a minor inconvenience, kind of like someone hit a deer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I gotta move this off the road before I can continue.
Maybe
And-
call the Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah, and then you just kind of like,
I fucked up. Hit a deer.
Yeah.
Do you have a tag for that? No. That joke doesn't make sense to anyone who doesn't live in a...
in a pretty rural area.
Yeah.
The DNR, Department of Natural Resources, takes care of shit like that. So
And also, if you, like, kill a deer,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't count if it's an accident. But when hunting, you're supposed to have
yeah,
license to hunt a certain number.
right. That's a population control thing. You're welcome for the education.
Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel, through Abel Beth Maakah, and through the entire region of Bichrites. The Bichrites, who we've mentioned so many times before that we can just mention them in passing. Don't worry about it. And gathered together and followed him. All the troops with Joab came and besieged Sheba and Abel Beth Maakah. They built a siege ramp up to the city, and it stood against the outer fortifications.
Siege ramps are interesting. I learned a lot about siege ramps after you told me that they used the word siege ramps. The word I get most is not siege ramp, it's mound. which is a siege ramp basically. But what would happen is you'd have like say a tall wall, and you'd just like pile dirt and stones up and then walk up it.
Yeah.
It'd probably take months, honestly.
Months.
Well, it depends on how high the wall is, but every model I've seen of this shows the wall very, very high. So it was very impressive. Well, because I assume they're also fighting the people trying to build the fucking mound to come into the city.
I'd hope so.
Right, unless they're just like, we didn't think of that. Like, yeah, that's a really good idea.
We might as well not even have the wall.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let them do it now. There's no point. They're gonna make it. So basically, they'd go up, and then generally you'd have some sort of ladder system, and then you'd go up and siege. The Romans were really good at it. So
Romans were good at a lot of things.
So I assume this was less impressive than the Romans.
Romans were good at a lot of things, including fucking little boys. I'm not one to judge, just be excellent at everything you try to do. While they were battering the wall to bring it down, a wise woman called from the city, "Listen, listen, tell Joab to come here so I can speak to him." He went toward her, and she asked, "Are you Joab?" "I am," he answered. She said, "Listen to what your servant has to say." "I'm listening," he said.
Joab, my favorite character right now. He's just always like, okay, why don't we just kill this guy? And then David's like, no, I'm gonna cry about it for 7 TBR episodes. And Joab's like, we could just fucking kill. And then he's like, why don't we build a fucking mound and go up the hill? They won't even fight back. And I was like, yeah, bitch, listening. Love you, Joab.
She continued, "Long ago they used to say, 'Get your answer at Abel,' and that settled it. We are peaceful and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance?" "Far be it from me," Joab replied. "Far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. This is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this man, and I'll withdraw from the city." So they didn't even ask. They didn't even go into the city and be like, "Hey, can we get this guy?" They're just like, "Let's just attack the city that he's being harbored in."
That's why I like him, though. He's a really straightforward, like, let's just get shit done kind of guy. Even if, in this case, not the smartest route.
The woman said to Joab, "His head will be thrown to you from the wall."
Well, I just kind of wanted to kill him myself.
No, we're gonna do the head thing.
Oh.
Then the woman went to tell all the people with her wise advice, and they cut off the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. Who threw that? Whoever threw that had awesome aim and just perfect. Like, you know what I mean? If it's a tall enough wall, you gotta get it.
The LeBron of Jews.
So he sounded the trumpet, and his men dispersed from the city, each returning to his home, and Joab went back to the king of Jerusalem.
Well, that's good. I like Joab.
It was a good story about a quick rebellion and then a quick beheading. It really had no point. We learned nothing.
Yeah, every story that ends with a beheading, though, is one we're going to read, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. This next section, called David's Officials.
Lame.
It's lame, but there is one part I'd like to bring up, and that is it lists off what David's officials were each in charge of. And for reference, in verse 24, Adoniram was in charge of forced labor. So in case you wondered, hey, who was in charge of forced labor?
Slavery.
That guy. Slavery.
Slavery.
Yeah, that guy was in charge.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to have my name written down in a history book, that's the last title I would want.
Yeah, in charge of forced labor?
Yeah.
Bring your grievances to him.
This just has a good, like, novel title.
The Gibeonites Avenged. And this is going to be a good one, because it harkens back to like, Saul's days, which is always good. Saul's a more interesting character than David, in my opinion.
I agree, because he was, like, bipolar and had shit going on, and
he threw spears at people indiscriminately.
And David instead is just like, I'm gonna murder everyone, and now I'm old and I cry a lot.
Yeah, what happened to David? We never saw
Nuts got cut off, man.
What changed? He just went from a warrior to like crying.
You
over
don't stay
everything.
tough when you have like 67 wives.
Yeah, I guess so.
Each one of them takes a little bit out of you.
During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. So David sought the face of the Lord. The Lord said, "It is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death."
Whoa! We have had a long time without Saul, and now God like turns off his Super Nintendo, and he's like, "Oh, that pissed me off. You just starve for a little bit, I guess."
Yeah, Saul's been dead for years at this point, and then randomly there's a famine, and they're like, "Oh, it must have been because Saul fucked with the Gibeonites. What are we gonna do?" I don't know. Let's talk to the Gibeonites. And that's what they do. The king summoned the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not part of Israel, but were survivors of the Amorites. The Israelites had sworn to spare them, but Saul in his zeal for Israel and Judah had tried to annihilate them, which was in the Bible. We read it long ago.
Yeah.
David asked the Gibeonites, "What shall I do for you? How shall I make atonement that you will bless the Lord's inheritance?" The Gibeonites answered him, "We have no right to demand silver or gold for Saul or his family, nor do we have the right to put anyone in Israel to death."
Those are the two things.
Gold or death? What do you want me to do for you? David asked. They answered the king, "As for the man who destroyed us and plotted against us so that we have been decimated and have no place anywhere in Israel, let 7 of his male descendants be given to us to be killed, and their bodies exposed before the Lord at Gibeah of Saul, the Lord's chosen one."
Well, so the only thing they don't have, apparently, we can't ask for gold or silver from Saul's family, or we can't kill people from Israel, but we can kill the shit out of Saul's descendants.
Which is a little complicated when you really look at it, because we've talked about Saul's descendants before, and in fact, one of Saul's sons became the leader briefly after Saul died. However, I think it bears repeating that this is kind of included in the list of contradictions, because in 1 Chronicles chapter 10, verse 6, it explicitly states that Saul died, and his 3 sons and his whole house died together.
Yeah, all at the same time. Not that they died, which would be fine because people die, but this says they all died together.
However, we've gotten stories about, Jonathan's son, and even Jonathan in the earlier text wasn't killed with his father, so this is one of those contradictions, which are going to get a lot of, shotgun contradictions in this chapter.
And I don't know, 1 Chronicles 10:14, there's a double contradiction, because in that same passage, it says another way in which Saul died. If you remember, when we read it, it said Saul died because he killed himself, he ran a sword through him, and then later on some guy lied about it to David, and he killed that guy about how they took Saul and strung him up on the wall. So there's 2 accounts there, and in 1 Chronicles, where that verse comes from about his family, it says that God killed him.
Yeah.
Just straight up, God slays him.
That's one of those things that I think I can let slide as that particular instance not being a contradiction, because I think when they say God killed him, they're implying that whatever did kill him was caused by God. Still incorrect, but I'm just saying I get what they're saying.
Yeah, but it says he didn't ask for counsel of God, and that's why he slayed him.
Well,
which isn't accurate either. So,
I
get it. Yeah, but so there's 3 of 4. 3 of 4 different ways that Saul died.
Yeah. So the king said, "I will give them to you," them being the family members of Saul that he's going to give them to kill. The king spared Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, because nepotism. That's not quite nepotism. They're not related, but it's something like nepotism.
Well, he's crippled.
Yeah. As if that's ever stopped them, honestly. Son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the oath before the Lord between David and Jonathan, son of Saul. But the king took Armoni and Mephibosheth, the 2 sons of Aiah's daughter Rizpah, who she had borne to Saul, together with the 5 sons of Saul's daughter, Merab. Now, in our version, it says Merab, the 5 sons of Saul's daughter, Merab. However,
in the King James, it says, and I quote, "and the 5 sons of Michal, daughter of Saul." If you remember, Michal was a character that we used to bring up kind of a lot.
Yeah, she was one of Saul's daughters, and even in our, by the way, even though it says Merab, there's a superscript D, and if you go to the bottom of our Bibles, it says, most manuscripts say it's Michal. Now, this is interesting because in 2 Samuel 6:23, it explicitly says Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children until the day of her death. However, here it's talking about her 5 sons.
Right.
So either she had no children until the day of her death, or she had 5 sons. Not a lot of middle ground.
And so you can go either way with it. You can say, okay, what they have here in the NIV is the right one. And that's fine, but it still leads to contradictions within itself. And then if you go over and say, well, the King James is the only real true one, well, this one has Michal, and then her amounts of children are different.
Yeah.
So you can't, there's just no way out of it. There's no way to go at this and make it not a contradiction.
Yeah. He handed them over to the Gibeonites, who killed them and exposed their bodies on a hill before the Lord. That's a beautiful imagery. All 7 of them fell together. They were put to death during the first days of the harvest, just as the barley harvest was beginning.
So this is human sacrifice for harvest.
Yes, it is.
which is outlawed, and you shouldn't do that.
Correct. It won't be good for your crops unless you bury the bodies underneath it.
Right, so why are they doing the thing that they're not supposed to do?
Because it's kind of, they're circumventing it by not killing them for God. They're killing them for the people, which will then bless them and allow God to stop punishing them.
All right.
It's kind of a way around it.
Gotcha.
Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on a rock. From the beginning of the harvest till the rain poured down from the heavens on the bodies, she did not let the birds touch them by day or the wild animals by night.
So she sat with all the dead bodies the whole time. She was not mentally stable.
She was ceremonially unclean by their own laws,
Oh,
too.
definitely. Should have been killed.
When David was told what Aiah's daughter Rizpah, Saul's concubine, had done, he went and took the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from the citizens of Jabesh Gilead. They had stolen the bodies from the public square at Beth Shan, when the Philistines had hung them after they had struck Saul down at Gilboa.
Wait, what? Nah.
So they're saying here that the Philistines are who killed Saul. However, there are no fewer than 4 different ways that Saul is said to have died, and we've talked about these before. In 1 Samuel chapter 31, verses 4 through 6, it says that Saul took a sword and fell upon it, thus killing himself. In 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 8 through 10, it says that an Amalekite killed him, and then here it's saying that the Philistines killed him. So they just cannot get it straight who killed him. They buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the tomb of Saul's father Kish at Zelah in Benjamin, and did everything the king commanded. After that, God answered the prayers in behalf of the land. So
Thanks, God.
Thanks, God, for making us kill 7 innocent people. Good job.
Good.
Today we end on war against the Philistines, which has one of the more interesting contradictions in the Bible, in my opinion, and one of the more blatant ones. So we continue in chapter 21, verse 15. Once again there was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. David went down with his men to fight against the Philistines, and he became exhausted. And Ishbi-Benob, one of the descendants of Rapha, whose bronze spearhead weighed 300 shekels.
300 shekels? 7.5 pounds.
That's not bad.
That's a good sized spear.
And who was armed with a new sword, said he would kill David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue. He struck the Philistine down and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, saying, "Never again will you go out with us into battle, so that the lamp of Israel will not be extinguished."
Stop getting in our way, old man.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. In the course of time, there was another battle with the Philistines at Gob. At that time, Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Saph, one of the descendants of Rapha. In another battle with the Philistines at Gob, Elhanan, son of Jair, the Bethlehemite, the Bethlehemite, killed the brother of Goliath the Gittite. Goliath as in the giant Goliath. Here it says the brother of Goliath. However,
in most versions, the brother of is not included. And in Hebrew, not included at all.
The King James Version added the brother of arbitrarily because they realized that Goliath dies twice in the Bible, so they were trying to cover up a contradiction. However, there's no reason they added brother other than it's a contradiction.
Right, so...
And ever since then, the other versions, like the NIV, which is what we have followed suit with the King James and just kept the brother. See, this is why when people say that the Bible is inerrant, I say that's absolute bullshit. You know how many times it had been translated and copied by hand before the King James Version?
Oh yeah, and by the way, that's such a difficult task. I do not blame people who copied the original text. Like, that's a tough task, and sometimes, yeah, you're gonna fuck up. Like, the Sea of Reeds is probably a typo.
Yeah.
It could have been the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds. We have no idea because the only real manuscripts we have are kind of, copied from each other, and it could have been a fuck up somewhere in there.
So here's one example where blatantly someone, for arbitrary reasons of trying to make it less contradictory, even though there's no reason to do so, the language is very clear that it is Goliath. Yeah. They added the brother of because it fit better with their narrative. This is one example of one version that changed one thing. Imagine how many people changed how many things over time. Just saying, it's a good example of that. Yeah. So Goliath dies twice, essentially, although in this version they claim it's his brother.
And if older is more accurate, Hebrew is the most accurate of this.
Yeah.
And so, it doesn't include that. So.
In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. That's important. 24 in all. Thanks for the math lesson. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shimei, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were descendants of Rapha and Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. good to know we ended on a story of a man with 6 digits on each extremity. Don't know why they needed to include that, but there it is.
It was odd at the time.
Anyways, that's it for this episode. Next time, stay tuned for David's death and the end of 2 Samuel, because I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it.
I'm so excited.
Maybe.
And after we get through a little bit of this, we're going to start... We got a couple more books of the Bible to go through, and then we're going to end up summarizing a lot, because we're going to get into these really poem-driven, kind of prose weird stuff. So the format will change very slightly, but you probably won't notice that much. We're just going to say what we're skipping, and it'll be like when we did Leviticus and stuff.
Yeah. So, you can always follow us on Twitter at Bible Reloaded.
You can follow Hugo at Hugo Reloaded.
You can go ahead and donate to our Patreon page. This is in the future, so I don't know if we've hit 1,000 yet, but when we hit 1,000, we will start working on the Quran Reloaded.
Right. I don't know when episodes are going to come out for that, but we'll at least be in pre-production. You can also press the subscribe button, because what you just saw was quality YouTube entertainment.
It was all right. I mean, they're certainly better, but there is definitely worse.
There's definitely worse. Yeah, we're just treading water.
That's good enough. I'd rather tread water than drown.
We're like manatees. We're okay, but if, we
We're
don't
like-
really serve a benefit, but we're nice to look at.
We're manatees, and you're a sailor who's been on the seas for months, and we start to look like mermaids because everything else is just
You've only
shit
been drinking rum
and seawater.
and you have scurvy, and so I mean, manatee holes look reasonable enough to stick your dick into. So,
Anyways, until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been the Bible Reloaded. That is a fact. That is a fact. And I say it every episode, and it continues to be true.
Right. And next week, we'll work on our manatee calls.
Right in my manatee hole.
You talking manatee? That doesn't make sense.